Okay, welcome everyone. I'm glad so many of you still have the energy to join this session at the end of this first day of the 7th ELISA workshop. So this session is a little bit different from most, since it will be a little bit split into a presentation part at the beginning and then a hands-on part where everybody gets to actually try this tool and play with it and set it up, and I'll show you guys around. So yeah, I acknowledge that probably not everybody wants to spend 1.5 hours with this tool and is satisfied with a standard half-hour presentation to get updated of what's going on and what it can do. But everybody that still has the energy and time to stick around gets a full guided tour through this tool. So let's get started. Yeah, as I said, 2 parts. I'll first present and demonstrate, and then we will get our hands dirty. I'd like to start with a little bit of a history lesson or an introduction that covers how we got to this point in the first place. Why am I and you here after a long day looking at a new tool? And well, let me start with a little bit about myself. Well, because of the poor connection I have here, I cannot use the camera, but nevertheless, here is a very flattering photo of me. That's a few years ago, I must admit. Anyway, my name is Jochen. I'm a safety expert at ITK Engineering. That's a Bosch subsidiary, ultimately, since a few years ago. And I've been dealing with everything safety related for the last half decade. So I'm not super experienced, but I've got a few years of safety experience with this. In the ELISA context, I'm working on behalf of Toyota, and in that capacity ended up being the chair of the Automotive Work Group, and this is what leads us to this tool and how it got conceived. Yeah, by trade, I'm a mathematician, but a little bit more of one of the practical mathematicians. I spent the bigger part of a decade developing algorithms to simulate fluid dynamics, but is unrelated to this, so let's move on. Now, how did we get here? Well, the Automotive Work Group, as I said, I happen to chair it, in the same way as all the other work groups, needs to work and document and design example systems that are safety relevant and involve Linux in some capacity. And to do this on a level that would be acceptable in the automotive industry, in this case, but the same applies to other work groups, one needs to document and design a safety concept that breaks down the arguments and everything involved that shows how and why the system designed is safe, in the sense that it actually fulfills the safety goals one has identified to be necessary to be fulfilled for this system to be considered safe. And to that end, well, you need to spell it out. You need to document it, and you need to do so in a structured fashion. And what you also need to do is to have the requirements arising from this concept managed and captured in a structured way as well. And you also need stuff like traceability, where are changes coming from and why were they made, and also a type of change management. Now, when the Automotive Work Group started out, well, we started in a textual form, just as everybody else. We took Google Docs, Markdown files. In the beginning, it was Word files actually, then it moves to Google Docs. Markdown is a newer development, but still textual and linear in nature. And very soon we ran into the pitfalls of doing it that way. If you design a safety concept properly, there automatically will be a repetition of sorts. So the same kind of arguments and requirements, they contribute to several safety goals, or within a tree of requirement, within an argument structure, the same type of arguments contribute or are necessary in the context of several other branches of such a tree. And if you do that textually, you're looking at the abyss of endless overhead to keep things consistent, to make sure nothing is lost, to make sure you do not change something in one place that is referred in another place without checking that it does not impact whichever argument you make with the same artifact at another place. So in a nutshell, it is not manageable. It doesn't work. And also, for those of you familiar with safety standards, in particular the ISO 26262, there are semantic rules to how to build and break down a safety concept. And these rules, they regard a lot of things like which artifact types can be related to each other by a parent-child relationship, and also how the safety integrity levels are allowed to be broken down and how they are inherited from one requirement to the next. And all that stuff to check manually is a lot of work, and it doesn't give you much. But the good thing is that is computer work. And if work can be done by a computer, it should be done by a computer. So it was not manageable the way we did it. So maybe look around what is available on the market. What do we have? What about existing tooling? And in fact, there existing tooling. Tooling does exist. There is specific tools for these things in the industry, but most of them are focused on the requirements engineering and management side of things, and not so much on safety. Safety is more of an addendum, an afterthought that gets put on top of it. There's stuff like DOORS, YAMA, Polarion, probably more, and what they all share is that they are proprietary. And since we are in an open source context, that just won't fly. Safety is a corporate domain, and in the open source domain, there is no tooling, or at least hardly tooling, and the stuff that does exist, at least the stuff I looked into, did not fit the bill. It didn't work very well. The stuff that I did find, like RM2, John pointed me in that direction, they are text-based and purely, yeah, they just don't work very well. It's not fun to work with them. So, and if we're talking about the safety concept itself, even in the corporate world, not too much exists. So, nothing there to leverage. And yeah, as you know, anything that is proprietary cannot really be used, because you have no influence on how exactly the tool works and what you need from it. And even worse, even if it is provided to you free of charge, you are dependent on the goodwill of whoever provides the license, and that might just go away just as quickly as it came. So one should not put a project like this at the mercy of commercial licenses being gifted. So what do we need from a tool? Well, I wrote down a few points that went through my head when I started to design this tool. What do I actually want such a tool to fulfill? And the first thing is it needs to be open source. Anything that's proprietary will not work. It needs to take care of the donkey work, all the unthankful, repetitive stupid work needs to be done by the tool. That's not something humans want to do and should do. Then I already mentioned we have a little bit of a schism between what safety engineering needs and what requirements management needs. I'm talking about the repetition part and keeping stuff consistent. We'll get to that in a second, because from a safety side, we need to be able to read a concept like a book, and the requirements management side wants single source of information, and that's pretty much it in that area. Now, we also need to be able to integrate with version control. That means Git. Well, it usually means Git. Pretty soon it probably will mean Git in general, because everything else in that regard is on its way out the door anyway. So it needs to be compatible with Git. And what also we need is it needs to be suitable for collaboration. This is a group effort and not something structured as it would be in a development team in an industry project. So it needs to accommodate the need of working in a group. And of course, it needs to play nice with existing systems that we have in industry. Otherwise, whatever is done by us here cannot be adapted, cannot be reused. And probably the most important point of them all, it needs to be fun to use. If it's no fun to use, people won't use it, I won't use it, and then it's pointless. Now, all these things happened last year before Christmas. And then by accident, by chance, I came across Freeplane. Some of you might be familiar with it. Freeplane is a mind mapping tool. It is open source. It was forked from FreeMind a couple of years ago, and now I think it's probably the dominant open source FreeMind tool, maybe, not sure. But in any case, it's quite prominent, so you might have come across it. And Freeplane is a little bit different than most mind mapping tool in the sense that it calls itself a knowledge management engine. And what hides behind this fancy phrase is that it has a focus on computerization of maps. That means a lot of stuff can be automated in these maps, and individual leaves and nodes in the tree in such a mind map support parameters that are attached to nodes. So they already it already brings a lot of stuff that is needed for requirements management, for instance. And it also happens to be highly extensible through scripts and add-ons. We'll get to that in a second, because that's exactly what happened. I made an add-on for it. It has a powerful and well-documented API. Everything can be accessed and controlled via scripts. So it is a great basis to build something on top. And as I already said, the tree structure of a mind map mirrors what we need for what it is the same structure we see in a safety concept or in a tree of broken down requirements. So I thought, since I was sitting in quarantine anyway, around Christmas, the pandemic was in full swing, nothing to do, might as well just make it. So that's what I did. Now, let's take a look at it. What can it do so far? What you see down here is a little snapshot of this tool where you can see a few artifacts in a tree. You can already see a few things here. There is a coding for different types of artifacts in this tree. You see this hexagonal one is a safety goal. It is also indicated by this little symbol here. What it is, and the safety integrity level as B is directly visualized as well. It's very important. Everything, or at least almost everything in these nodes is shown in a visual fashion. And here, for instance, we have functional safety requirements that are derived from the safety goal, another one, and an information artifact. And here you can see the semantic check in action already. For those of you that are familiar with the rules of ASIL decomposition, you probably directly saw that this won't work. There is no way that an ASIL B safety goal is split up into an ASIL B requirement and an ASIL E of C requirement. So it directly complains and tells us that something is probably not wrong, not right in this place here. Now, what is built into this add-on directly is support for both of the major safety integrity standards that have an integrity level system. Both the automotive one, ISO 26262, and the ISO 61508 are built in as support, so you can track both ASILs or power levels, and it brings the support for managing those. And also the typical artifact types coming from the automotive worlds, safety goals, functional safety requirements, technical safety requirements, hardware, software requirements, information artifacts, and a couple more. And it also brings automatic checking of consistency and semantics. I showed it down here. We'll see it in action in a second. And it also supports allocating requirements in this tree to architecture elements of a preliminary or already more defined architecture. And we also directly have built into Freeplane unique IDs for all those nodes, which is another thing that is essential for requirements management. So let me show you. So now we switch over to Freeplane. Here you can see it in action. I can, by pressing F4 here, that's the key I bound the edit window to, I can pull up a little edit box, which I can use to change properties in here of this selected node. So in this case, I selected a safety goal. It already shows me, well, it is of ASIL B and it is of type safety goal and currently not allocated, and it's also not tainted. And if I now change this ASIL B to an ASIL D, for instance, it will directly reflect in the way this is shown here, and change here to an ASIL D. And it will do something else. You probably noticed that the style here changed. It now became red. The reason is a feature called tainting. Whenever a requirement is changed, every requirement that is a child of it, in the sense that the derived requirements in combination fulfill the parent requirement, need to be rechecked. I changed something here, so clearly I need to recheck if this is still okay or not. And I could then do this by opening up this window and removing the tainting checkmark, and this way I confirm I checked that this still is fine and it's all good. Here in the root node of this concept, if we press Alt key plus F9, we open the editor for attached properties of this node. Let me widen this a little bit. Here you can set various configuration options. For instance, you can disable this tainting if it goes on your nerves during the first design phase when you don't want to be bothered with this. You can switch it off, and you can also switch on the 13849 mode. Why not? That is the one that allows you to track power levels. So if I now go to this safety goal, you see that suddenly, performance level, that suddenly this box got a little bit bigger, and it also lets me attach a performance level as well. And if I do that, I now see that I can track this as well. This has some advantages. It enables you to do multi-domain development in this tool. Let's say your whatever you're developing is supposed to be used both in automotive and some general machinery domain, and you have both an ASIL level as well as a power level to track, then performance level to track, sorry, then you can do that at the same time as well. Now we will switch it off again just to get rid of it again. Okay. Now, what did I want to show you? Was that all I wanted to show? Yes, consistency checking, artifact types. So let's say I'm creating a new node here. Here we have a functional safety requirement. If I add a new child node and type some text in here, this is currently just a standard text node. And if I now again call up this little window, it directly suggests that this might be another functional safety requirement or a technical safety requirement. What it does not offer me here is the option to make this a safety goal, because from the safety concept semantics, you cannot derive a safety goal from a functional safety requirement. It's not possible. So it doesn't even offer it here. And yeah, let's do that, and it will automatically turn into this requirement. And again, the tainting marks this one as necessary to recheck, because clearly, if you change a child requirement, the parent needs to be rechecked. Okay, did I want to show something else? We'll see. Oh yeah, allocation to, oh, no, how did I do that? It's gone. Here, sorry. Allocation to architecture tree. So this is very rudimentary. What you can see on the left here is an architecture tree where you have different elements on system, software, and hardware level. Currently, there are just dummies here. If you remember, if I open this little edit box here, I'll see that currently it's not allocated. But I could maybe do it with this one. Yeah, a safety goal doesn't get allocated. That's why it doesn't even offer me that. A safety goal always refers to the whole system, but a functional safety requirement can be allocated. And it currently offers me sys element 1 or 2. And if I now simply go here and add another leaf here to this system architecture elements, let's call it a demo element. And I go back to this edit box, then it will now offer me the demo element as option to attach this to. So this way you can handle allocation of the requirements to your design elements, at least to some extent. Okay. Now, what else is there? What is very important? Single source of information. I already explained that earlier. The safety concept might want repetition, but from the safety engineering side, this is not good. And having it in a textual form was a source of a lot of headaches. But Freeplane already has a mechanism built in called cloning. Maybe some of you wondered why was this requirement of a different color than the other safety function safety requirement. And the reason for that is that it actually is a clone. It is down here as well. And in general, what you can do in this system is you can take any node here, let's take this one, and copy it here by pasting it. That way we get a copy of it. And if I change something here, nothing changes. But if I take the same requirement and paste it with Control D, I cause a clone, and it directly changes its color to indicate that it's a clone. Also, it has this little box here. And if I change something here, it also changes its content up here. And even better, let's say I give this one a child requirement, it will all automatically show up here as well. And that solves the single source of information headache for us. No more need to worry about any of these things. Okay. Let's see, what else do we have? Yeah, so we have this very nice cloning mechanism that allows us to have the same content at several places in the tree, which means we can read the safety concept like a book and still have the single source of information that we need for efficiently handle the requirements. Now, what else can we do? You already saw that. Everything is graphically represented here. You directly see how requirements are broken down. You directly see the types of different artifacts and their properties. The integrity levels are directly displayed. The type is displayed. You directly see if it needs to be addressed because something changed and so on. You have some very, very nice features built in Freeplane that help with an efficient workflow. You can do filtering and folding to some very interesting effects. Let me show you what you can do here. For instance, let's say I want to work on this safety goal up here, and this stuff I don't care about. So I press space and it gets folded in and it's out of the way. It's really nice to work here. Then maybe I'm only interested in functional safety requirements. So what I could do is I could go into this filter bar here and filter for type, and I'm only looking for functional safety requirements. And now this needs to get out. Now if I go out of the way here, now if I press this little button, it will mark all the hits of this filter. So as you can see, the safety goal and so on was not marked. But more impressively, let's say I only want a list. I'm not interested in all this other stuff. I don't just want to see where it is. I just want to see it. So I press this button and now everything disappears that is not a hit or a descendant of the hit. And if I don't want the descendants either, I can control this with these buttons. So pressing this button makes them go away. And now I have a filter that only shows me all the nodes that hit this condition. And let's get rid of this filter again. You can also make these filters permanent and have them at your disposal whenever you need them. So constructing a filter that only shows technical safety requirements that are allocated to a certain architecture element and are of ASIL B or less is not problematic at all. You can construct it with the filter editor. We will play with that later when we have our hands-on session, but it is really straightforward. And there is another nice feature that's called views. What you can do is you can add a new map view. That means you're looking at the same map from different perspectives. So if I do that, it looks like if this file is open twice. Now the beauty is that in here, I can do the filtering like I did before, for instance. Let's only look at software requirements. Why not? And there are none apparently. That's no good. Let's go back to the technical safety requirement or to the functional safety requirements. Yeah. And I can still continue working in this view just as I did before. So I can get rid of this mark, and I can continue my work here and add something, and it will show up down here as well because those two are actually identical. Those two are clones. And if I go back to the other map, I will now see it here. So you can just have several views of the same map, maybe one focused on a certain type of requirement or a certain safety goal and so on. You can have arbitrarily many of those. So it's really easy to set up a working environment that suits your needs in case stuff gets big or convoluted. Okay. No, this is not the right one. Here. Okay, reordering and moving cloning. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Let me show you. You can also very easily rearrange stuff. If you, let's say I want to grab this node, these two nodes here and move them somewhere else, what I'll do is I press the control key and then I can just move them around the tree with the direction keys. So if I press left from here, it will jump up here. If I press up, it will move up here. If I now at this point press right, it will become child of this info element. So it's really easy to grab stuff and move it somewhere else. Of course, you can also do it the old-fashioned way and cut it with Control X and paste it somewhere else. That of course would also work. But yeah, you can grab stuff and move it around. It works really nicely just with your keyboard. You don't need to mess around with mouse much at all if you don't want to. Oh, is there something in the chat? Oh yeah, there is. Wait, you are getting ahead of yourself. I'll get to the export. I have a slide on exporting later, but the quick answer is so far it can export to a Markdown file for easy viewing, and it can export to CSV for re-importing somewhere else, and regif support is in the works. So I'll show that off later. What else do we have? Tables and traceability? Yes, it can. It can spit out the traceability, what belongs to what, and it can easily give you the full tree. So everything can be pulled out of this. Let me show you. Let me show you. Here, for instance, let's say I want to export to CSV. I can do that, and you'll see that you'll have those three requirements now that have in a tabular fashion ASIL level, type ID, and parent ID. And in the parent ID, you directly have the tree structure as well in this table. Okay. MPS. I'll look into MPS. I'm not sure if I can connect it, but I'll definitely look into it. It doesn't ring a bell at the moment. Is it an open source tool? Can I could it be used freely and modified, or is it somehow semi proprietary? Kernel. Okay. Well, I'll look into it later. Okay. So moving on. What else do we have? Yeah, of course you can. Oh, okay, I'll look into it. I'll see if it can do everything that this can do. I can't tell you right now. I didn't cross paths with that. Okay. Now you can also access the underbelly. You see the edit window I showed off a few times here that lets you set all these properties. It's basically just a front end for the raw data behind, which is a little bit less nice to look at, but you can access and modify it. We will do so to trigger the semantic checker to complain later. Then there is one more thing that has been built into this is the code tagging feature. In the context of the analysis done in the architecture work group, the need arose to trace requirements to positions in source code. So what this tool can do is it can monitor files and look for the IDs in comments in a certain format and realize where they are and create GitHub links from it. So let me show you what I mean with that. Later, you can all grab this repository, check it out. There is some mock-up source code is prepared in there to demonstrate it. And I already checked it out. So give me a second to pull up Freeplane again. So yeah, what's going on here is I attached this local repository to this map, and there is a file in here which I can click directly to get in here. And you can see that there are a few codes, IDs are tagged here in this mock-up source code file. And if I now tell this tool to refresh the tag mapping, then it will find those tags, and you don't see them yet because they are hidden, and create links in these nodes of these tags. So I can click these links and I will end up at the according line in the GitHub online viewer. So you can directly jump in here. You see this ID is the one that was tagged. If we look into this one, you see it is exactly this ID, and the fact that it was added in this file as a reference makes it visible in this tool. So it's really simple to attach the IDs of your requirements from this tool into source code and keep it updated in this tool. So just for demonstration purpose, let's grab it. Maybe this requirement here and copy the ID and go to the file where we put it, the mockup file, and add it as another requirement, maybe here. Just paste it, save it, go back to the tool and tell it refresh the mapping. And now you will see that now there's another line in here that refers to line 11. And you can set it up in such a way that that it directly points to the source code repository on GitHub. Okay, so that was the source code tagging. Yeah, we can play with that later as well. What else do we have? Collaboration features. I already showed how the tainting works. It's a little bit more intricate than what I showed you earlier. It also tracks the clones. So if I change this clone here at this place, you see it's still marked, it's blue. If I change it here, it will mark this requirement as it needs to be rechecked because there is a clone of this down here. And yeah, so it's a little bit more intricate than just looking up and down the tree. I have a question. Is the tag feature linked to the comment format? Right now, it is simply the ID in brackets. So whether so the language doesn't really matter. Of course, if your language for some reason has these kind of elements as in your syntax, then of course this will be a little bit problematic. So basically, whether this is the tag it looks for, whether this comment looks like this, or it looks like this, or I don't know what else, a star slash or something like that, doesn't matter. It only looks for this block. So in that way, it's language agnostic. But of course, if this is something meaningful in your language, yeah. and then you might get false positives. But I think that's reasonably unlikely. But of course, this could be changed or made customizable. Okay, what else are we working on? We are working on a review process and artifact ownership. The idea is to design a system that allows people in the group or in a group to take ownership of a part of the map and have a process that integrates here that allows for review and the normal process of this, in the sense of you can add review comments that then get delivered to the owner of an artifact, which then can handle them and comment on them again and so on. And yeah, but this is still yeah, work in process. It's in progress. It's not finalized yet, because it needs to be designed well, otherwise it will make the maps explode. And another feature that's in development is handling external requirements that would allow to separate some parts. Again, that was sparked by the architecture work group's desire to have the kernel level requirements separately, but still have them visible in certain points of the map. But then again, it's not finished yet. And yeah, as we already touched earlier, currently there is export to CSV and to Markdown. And as a work in progress, there is the game changer regif export. Those of you familiar with commercial requirements management systems know this file format. It's the standard Exchange format for requirements. And once this is finished, then we basically have a jailbreak here in the sense that this can interact with any standard requirements engineering tool. Then again, it's only partially there. Maybe I can show you here, for instance, if I make another safety goal here or another actually I need another requirement because it's just a preliminary thing. So if I make this a requirement and now I export it to regif, there we are, then I get this XML file that contains the regif equivalent of this one requirement. If you look closely enough, it will be somewhere down here. It has the ID and it has its ASDF string. Okay, but yeah, it's not finished yet. Some colleagues are working on it. And what else do I have? Oh yeah, in terms of links and resources, yeah, Freeplane, you can grab here. There is the add-on that you can grab from my Git repository. And the demo repository I used here and that we will use for the hands-on session in the following half hour, yeah, can be checked out from here. Okay, thank you very much. Time for questions. And yeah, then we will basically see how many want a guided tour and want to get their hands on this personally, and the rest is free to enjoy an evening beer. So if you have questions, shoot. Okay, so is it going to be used in the automotive work group or in the other work groups? Well, it has seen a little bit of use in the architecture work group. The other domain work group does not use it, at least not yet. Of course, it is, every work group is free to use whatever tools suits their needs. But if it is open to anyone, of course. So I think that the more, once we have more work groups that are domain-specific work groups working on particular use cases, they will run into the same issues if they don't use tooling support, and some will adopt it and some maybe will not. It depends. I can't answer this. So I hope that it is very useful for other work groups as well. It certainly turned out useful for the automotive work group. I do not know the tool used by the Zephyr project. What is it called? I know that the Zephyr project manages their requirements within the source code mostly and uses Doxygen to extract it if needed. I wasn't aware there was a specific tool for the concept work. So if you can drop me a link, I'll look into it. Okay, do we have more questions? Oh, you also don't know. Okay, well, yeah, as I said, as far as I know, it is done in textual form in the source code itself. But I don't know if there is some tooling built around it besides Doxygen. I simply don't know. But it's yeah. Now I'm curious too. Maybe I should have asked the colleague that gave the presentation earlier. Yeah, Kate certainly knows. Yeah. Okay. Now, no, Freeplane. No. I did not make Freeplane. What I made is the add-on that builds the safety functionality on top of it. Freeplane is an open source tool for mind mapping in general. All I did was make an add-on that adds this menu with all the functionality needed and all the additions here that make this seamless for safety work. Okay, now let's see who is willing to stick around, who is interested to get this installed on their machine and have a guided tour around it, how to do various things. Just indicate in the chat. Let me see how many people are still around. Why do I not see anything here? Zoom, always hiding. Okay, 16 people still present. Yeah, so yeah, let me know. Everybody that's interested can stick around, and I'll help with installation, setting it up, and everybody can play with it, try out the different things that are possible here, and get help from me directly if stuff is unclear.
So Jan, I think there is one hand from John.
John sticking around. Okay. more people interested. Otherwise, it's a one-on-one session with John.
Okay. Oh, sorry. It was okay for the intro. Sorry, I thought it was a question. Sorry.
No, it's just to say that I was interested. That being said, I have the add-on from March. Does
Okay.
that cause problems, or is that okay?
We will update it really quick.
Okay.
That is quick and painless. Okay, Shua wants to stick around. Okay, well then, let's get going. We'll just see how many of the rest is just still lingering in the call and how many are just too shy to say they want to stick around as well. Okay, now let me see. Am I still sharing? I'm not sharing, am I? Why am I not sharing? Yes, I am. Why is there no green border anymore? Do you still see my screen?
Yep, and it's got a green border.
Yeah.
Okay, weird. Okay, then let's get
Just
this.
out of morbid curiosity, do you want to record this as well?
That's a good question. Do we want that? Is there a value in it?
Probably.
Then let's just let it run recording. We can still toss it away, and if nobody wants to watch it, good. Otherwise, we have a instruction session basically. Okay, let me pull up this map because in here is my plan for what we need to do. So first thing is installing Freeplane. We do that here. For those that don't have it yet. Comes twice. I will drop you the link in the chat. If I can find the chat. Come on, chat. Down here. Okay, chat here. Okay. So yeah, not to fill up everybody. So those of you that don't have Freeplane yet, grab it from here. Don't use the your packet manager. At least the one in Ubuntu is quite outdated. So grab it directly from there if you don't have it yet. Yeah, go ahead. It's directly here. You grab whatever fits your operating system, and yeah, they just released a new version a couple days ago, so you get the freshest one. And yeah, just let me know once you have a running Freeplane instance. Now that my landlord stopped renovating the bathroom, she picked up the violin and starts playing again. I hope it's not being picked up by the mic. Oh yeah, just let me know once you have Freeplane running. It's a little bit hard to estimate how long that should take. If you have trouble, let me know. be nice if Zoom had some kind of simultaneous screen sharing, such that I can monitor what others are doing on the call as well. But I think it doesn't work with Zoom.
Maybe just have everybody raise their hand when they're done.
That's actually a good way to do that. Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. So everybody that has Freeplane now running, raise your hand, and overachiever.
That's known as a no-brainer. I'll probably run into problems because it's the old version.
Of the add-on or of Freeplane itself?
Of Freeplane.
Not necessarily. The API should have been stable. I don't think it changed.
A new version without bug fixes? Don't believe it.
Also true.
As I recall, I'd installed Freeplane under /opt root permissions and read only by everybody else. So probably a bit more difficult to do a new installation.
Ah, okay. Yeah, but you don't need it. I tested it on the new version, and on this machine, the 1.8 version is still running, and it also works fine. So chances are you're fine. Maybe if in the meantime I can show you how this looks for the automotive work group use case. Here we are. If it is in full use. So yeah, this is the tree that came out of our design work for the automotive work group. And yeah, you can see it gets quite big. And yeah, you can use the tricks I showed off earlier to navigate this, to make stuff out of focus that you're not interested in, and look into the individual branches of the argument. You can see here there's a whole lot of cloned nodes that are present on various places in this concept. And keeping this stuff consistent and organized in a text file is close to impossible.
I was going to make this comment in the regular session, but I thought it was a little too picky. If you get a really big mind map with a lot of clones, how do you tell which clone is which?
Well, what you always can do, that's a good point. You can filter for clones of the selection and mark it. So now I know this is a clone, and it's also here. And nowhere else.
Hmm.
And now if I'm interested in just these instances, I turn this filter, this search request into a filter with this button. And now everything else goes away. Now I just have those clues cloned. That is maybe not really interesting to you, but now I can also phase in all the 3 upwards and downwards of this clone. So now I have only the relevant stuff to these particular copies of the artifact.
Probably should say that I find it really powerful and really interesting what's being done.
It's well, I didn't do much with this really. It's already all in the foundation of Freeplane. I just made use of what was there already and put a little paint on it and added some logic on top. And yeah, I can just get rid of this filter again. And
maybe the author of Freeplane can certify Linux for us.
I can ask. Dimitri is a smart man. Okay. So, besides John, how far are we with the installation? Sure? Is anything blocking you, or does it just take some time?
Yeah, I'm trying now. Let's see.
I don't want to move forward without everybody
without-
having it
okay.
installed. Yeah. Well, you'll get to play with it to get a feeling for it. It's always one thing to see something operated by someone else, and it's something else to do it yourself. In the meantime.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You go ahead. Let me see. I'm looking for a dev package so I can download.
Oh,
going.
yeah. I can show you where that is actually, but it's directly linked on this page.
Okay.
Let me see. Here you go to download, and then no, sorry. Wait, where was it?
Yeah,
you
I went
you
to
go,
download.
you go to
okay.
files and then Freeplane stable.
Okay.
And there is a Debian package here, this one.
Okay. Let me go there.
Okay. Then the next thing you need is the add-on. So I'll post the link into the chat. That's my GitHub repo, the release pages. You can there just grab the newest one. I packaged it particularly for this session here. So the newest stuff would be in. And you just download it and open it up with Freeplane, and it will ask you if you want to install the add-on.
Okay. Go ahead without me because I'm running into some issues on my laptop at the
Oh,
moment.
okay.
ahead.
That's
I
a
will
pity.
watch. I'll watch. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Then maybe let me ask the other way around. Is there someone in the audience that still needs time and wants us to wait a little bit longer for installation? If so, speak up. Otherwise, we move ahead with John and Shua maybe once she sorts out the trouble.
Yeah. Just go ahead. Don't wait because yeah, don't know what's going on and you know,
Yeah, well,
I don't want to lose.
the way I envisioned this is a few people trying these things I outlined here after installation and setup. And yeah, well, in that way, it's John. So, John, do you want to update the plugin? If so, grab it from the link I just dropped in the chat.
Yeah, okay. I've already grabbed it and downloaded it. And then, yeah,
You just
installing
open it.
the add-on.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, do I simply install it or do I have to uninstall the other one?
You just install it. It will replace the old version.
Okay.
And the old version is still available on my page there. So if something is giving you trouble, you can always revert in the same way. And once you installed it, you'll have to restart Freeplane.
Okay, it says
Because
update from version 4, 0.4.
2.5 it should say. Did you grab the right one? Did you grab 0.5?
Yes, it said, do you want to install 5/4?
Ah, yeah, that's what you want to do.
So then I have to restart it.
Yes, restart it. And then we'll have to do a few settings. You'll have to enable script execution. You probably already have it, since you already have the tool installed. But just for demonstration purpose,
It
go
asked again.
to Tools and Preferences and Plugins, and then you have script execution enabled here. You put this to yes. Otherwise, it won't let you execute any of the tool scripts for security reasons.
Yeah, I've got it on ask and it already asked, so I assume
Okay.
it's okay.
Then in case you want to do the source code monitoring for code tagging, you also need to enable the reading of files. That's another one. That's in the plugin tab here. Permit read operations on files. You need to check this box. Otherwise, it will not be able to read files that are outside of its own. And then there is also, there are also a few things you don't necessarily have to change, but they make your life a lot easier. You see the way when I select a node, it gets a blue boundary, right? The default setting is to change the background instead, and that messes with the indication of clones. So you might want to change that. So again, we go to the preferences and appearance, and here you go down to the clone mark, paint clone marks for selection. And for selected node, where is it? Here. Selection colors display selected nodes in bubbles. You need to checkmark this box to go from a background marking to the box indication. And the selection method needs to be changed as well. That's very important. That should be, let me check. That is behavior. The selection method, the default is that if you are hovering with your mouse over a node, it will select it. And for the control with the keyboard, which is better, I think at least, this makes you crazy if you select random stuff just because your mouse pointer is there. So at the behavior tab, the selection method, change it to by click. That way a node only gets selected if you actually click it and not if you hover around on it.
Okay.
Got it? Okay.
Yeah, so far I'm with you.
Okay. Then we also have the to deactivate folding on selection. That is also in here somewhere. Let me see.
And of course, you've documented all this.
Yes, of course. It's actually in the README of the GitHub page, at least most of it. And what's still missing, I will add, but I think it's mostly there. So where is this selection thing? Joining spell checker. Hey, now I'm confused. Did it change maybe? I don't think so. I think it's called fold on click inside now. I think it should be this one. You can test it, deactivate it, and then just make a few nodes and click one. And if stuff is folding, then it's the wrong setting, and if it's not, then it's okay. Basically, you want to click a node. If you click a node and it does this, then it's wrong, because that is annoying. It forces you to double click constantly.
I think it was already
that way? Okay, great. And the clone marker we already switched on. Okay, then there's the matter of short keys. At least I prefer to make a new child node with the tab key. The default setting is the insert key. If you prefer the tab key as well, then we can change it.
No, I'm familiar with insert.
You want to have it insert? Okay, then we ignore this. Okay, that's the tool setup. Now a little bit of Freeplane 101. We have navigation. You have a new map probably created, right? It should be just the root node. Okay. Now make yourself a few nodes and a few children of nodes, so you have something to navigate around, just by using the insert keys in your case.
One thing you missed, I don't know if anybody's following you, but other than me, new map is a concept map, right?
You can, you don't have to. For the general stuff, yeah. I guess the easiest way is indeed to go new and new map from template, and then you can directly grab a safety concept. Then you have everything set up. If you don't, you end up in a standard Freeplane map that needs that doesn't have the safety stuff. But for practicing or for playing around with navigation, folding, and all these things, it's not needed to be a safety map. But yeah, you do this, then you get a brand new safety map that already has 2 dummy safety goals. And now you can just add a bunch of children requirements here, just so you get a tree and can practice moving around a little bit. That is done with the arrow keys, obviously. So you can move around, and you can also do folding with the spacebar. That's a very important concept. So if you don't like, here, if you don't want to see what's underneath here, you just press spacebar and it's gone. And you can also use the Alt key plus +1 and End to completely fold or unfold the key. So if I use Alt plus +1 key here, it folds just like it would with the space bar, but if I unfold it, it will only unfold 1 level. So that's good for cleaning up, for reorienting yourself if you want everything folded and make your way through a tree. And in the same way, if I fold it like this, right, and then press Alt plus End, it will completely unfold the tree. Same thing, just in a different direction. And yeah, you can add nodes just by pressing Insert, then you get a child, or Tab in my case, or you press Enter, then you get a sibling. So if I want a child, I press Tab or Insert in your case. And if I want a sibling, I press Enter. Then I get a sibling around. Okay, Roberto is dropping out. Okay, well, maybe next time you can get your hands on session. Okay, now you add nodes, and what you can also do, inside a tab, is you can select multiple nodes. You can do that by holding the control key and clicking them, or by using Shift plus the arrow key, just as you would in a text editor. So if I want this node, now I press Control and I click another one. Now I have those 2 marked. And if I just click this one and I keep Shift pressed and down, I will mark those 3 siblings. And of course, these methods can be combined. So if I now press Control again and click this node, I get this also on top of the selection. Let's get rid of this clone thing. Okay. Now, moving nodes, I already showed you earlier. The easy way is you mark the nodes you want to move, you press Control, and then use the arrow keys to move them around the tree. So in this case, these 3 nodes are marked. If I press Control, keep it pressed, and then use the arrow keys, I can not do that because I don't have a complete subtree selected. So if I select this one as well, now if I use Control plus left, why you won't work? Okay, that's a restriction I didn't think about. You can only do that with nodes that are of the same parent. It won't move subtrees. So with those 3 nodes now, it will work. I can, by pressing Control and left, I can move it up the tree. And now if I press Control and up, it will change places and be in the middle of those 2 other nodes. And if I now press Control and right, it will become, or those 3 will become a child node of the first node in this tree. So it's rather simple to move stuff around. So if let's say I want to move those 3 nodes to the other safety goal branch, I keep Control pressed, I press left once, it moves here, I press Control twice left, it moves up here, I press down and I press right, and now it's there. So you can just navigate the tree.
Almost as powerful as VI.
Almost. Well, you don't have to use the mouse at all if you don't want to. And actually, it shares some
Just being
concept with
sarcastic.
VI. Oh, I know. But it actually shares some concept with VI in a sense that you have an edit mode if you want to actually edit it. Yeah, we'll get to that. Okay, we already have copying nodes and cloning nodes. Yeah, just play with it a little bit. You can copy it with Control-C and drop it as copy with Control-V, or drop it as a clone with Control-D. And to edit the content of a node, you use the F keys. F2 gets you into the edit mode for the text of the node, F3 for the node details, and with Alt plus F9, you get the editor for the raw node properties. So if I want to change this text in this node, I will press F2, and now I am in an edit window, and I can add John's sarcasm here. Why not? And if I press F3, I will end up in the node details, and I can add something here as well. And with Alt plus F9, I open up the node editor for properties. So this being a fresh node without anything safety or otherwise related, has no properties. I could simply add a property called high and give it some value 4 maybe, or 44, and yeah, you can also, and now it's gone again. If you want, you can use the menu view and node attributes and set this to show all attributes, and that will show you the underbelly of this system with all the properties that are attached to safety nodes. You see the freshly added property high here that I just created with the Alt plus F9 editor, and also all the stuff that is needed for the management of these safety artifacts. But since that clutters the view pretty much, I usually just have it hidden, because I don't need to see that. If I want to see the contents of this, I mark the node and press F4 to open up the safety edit box that has a nicer way of displaying this information. And the ASIL level and the artifact type and so on are encoded in the symbols anyways. So no need for that. Okay. Are you still with me, John? Should I proceed?
Yep. I didn't mute. Ran into the
Okay.
problem that it's too dark in my room and I had to turn on the lights.
Ah, okay. Okay, we already covered clones and why we want clones. Yeah, we can see it. A clone can be differentiated from a normal node with the clone marker. So if I take this node and add it here as a clone with Control-D, you will see that both nodes now have this little square here. And that's the indication of a clone that comes with Freeplane. But it wasn't too clear enough for me. It wasn't too noticeable enough. So I added this reddish background stuff for safety nodes. So if this was actually a safety node, let's turn it into one by pressing F4 and making it a information frame, or maybe a function safety requirement, doesn't matter. It will turn into a safety node and it will take this reddish background because it's a clone. Okay. Now you can, if you want, play a little bit with filters. Yeah, maybe I'll show real quick how this can be used to construct more sophisticated filters. There is a filter composer. You can get it, to it here with this funnel and the pen on it. And this composer lets you create filters by Boolean operation on logical statements. So I could now go here and say, I am only interested in nodes that have the type. Where is the type? Here. And it is already smart enough to know that this type parameter in this map only has architecture, FSR, and safety goal values. So if I had another type in here, it would offer it as a suggestion here. And I can simply add this as a filter. So now we have a simple filter that says type contains functional safety requirement. And I can make another one, let's say one that refers to the ASIL level. And it only wants, let's say, ASIL B. And we add it as a filter. And now I can just mark those two and now use the AND or button here. Let's use the AND button, and it will create a new filter that is the AND between those two. And now if this is something I need often, I simply go to this button here and give this thing a name. Let's call it a demo filter. And I will now close this dialog. And in here, under the filters, there should be the demo filter as well. I made a mistake. I made a stupid mistake. I did not save it. That is stupid. So let me really quickly add this one again. Maybe just for demonstration purpose, this ASIL B filter. I now call demo
That's
filter.
a new bug on Freeplane that you can close a window without saving it.
Yeah, I guess so. Or maybe it just discards the changes. So if I instead do OK here, I now have the demo filter and I have it permanently here. And I can just pick it from this drop-down menu. It's now a standard filter and it will be available whenever you need it. Okay. That being said, yeah, filtering is a little bit of an advanced topic, but it's very, very powerful when used in conjunction with different map views. So you will set up different views of the same map with different for different tasks that you want to do, and have accordingly your filters set to only see the parts of the map that you're really interested in there. Okay, so that is filtering, and yeah, making a view. I already showed it earlier. Maybe you want to try it out yourself. You can do that in this menu view and add a new map view. And now your map has a second view that you can treat as a second instance. But everything you change here, let's say, for instance, I put my new demo filter in here. So I only see ASIL B artifacts, and I decide to change this safety goal to safety goal test and go back to the original view. It will also have changed to test. And all these style things will have transferred as well. Oh, we have another question.
About that a bit.
Yeah.
I was wondering if it was possible to have the architecture in one view and the safety concept in the other.
You definitely can. Look, let me show you. So you go here. This one has the filter in it. So let's make another view that does not have the filter. Okay. Now I could go to the architecture here and say I want only the currently selected node and also all its descendants. So here you go. Now you have a view that only contains the architecture stuff. And if we now add John here, and we continue our work here and try to attach John here, we can, because John is now here as an allocation element. Okay. So yeah, getting used to views makes this a lot nicer to use. Top. Now that we have the basics out of the way, we can get to how to operate the safety add-on. The core element of this add-on is the edit box. By default, it is bound to F4 key, but of course you can bind it to any key you want. And what the safety box does, if you execute it on a default node, it will turn it into a safety concept node and give you, based on its parents, reasonable choices to set parameters in it. You will see that in a second. And it allows, and if it's already is a safety box, a safety node, it will allow you to edit it. So if we make a new sibling node here to John's sarcasm and call it whatever, then it's just a normal text node and it is not considered to be anything safety related, right? But if I press F4, this box opens up and it already notices this is a child of a safety goal. So type can only be functional safety requirement or information. It cannot be another safety goal. It cannot be a hardware requirement. It cannot be a software requirement either. It has to be one of those two. And the ASIL level, since the parent is of ASIL B, it has to be a B or something that is derived from a B. And in the same way, allocation, it is only active once the node has been turned into a safety node, which has not happened yet. So I need to do this twice. So now it's a safety node. It has adopted the values. If I go back into this edit window, it will now let me allocate to John, for instance. So this is the core. Oh, there is a question in the chat. Tools used for safety critical work. That is true in general, but design and requirements tools on that level typically do not need to be qualified because malfunctioning of this tool will be noticed in the reviewing that has to happen anyways. The same argument is industry-wide applied to stuff like DOORS, YAMA, Polarion, the general requirements management suits, and this would apply to this as well. So for formal usage in a safety critical development, you'd have to do the tool classification, and if that, as I hope it will, or as it should, result in a TCL1, that's the end of it. But it's a good question. Yeah. If it was something that was closer to the code or to compilation, then qualification in the safety sense is something that would require more thought. That's true.
Jan,
Yes.
just quickly, time check. It's
Oh, yeah.
18.
Well,
yeah,
I
past the
see.
hour.
Well, good thing is we will not be taking away anybody's time. Bad thing is I'm taking away your time. So
There will be skill testing questions at the end.
true. But yeah, I don't know. I still have a few things that I want to show.
Yeah, we can go on for 15. I mean, till 7:30, if you like. So.
Okay, that's so officially it's 10 more minutes in this session. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, we have a tolerance of 15 minutes past the session.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to go way past the limit. Okay, yeah, now I get it. We are 1 hour 30 minutes now. Okay, a little bit over. Okay, well, I don't know. John, the rest of you, are you interested in continuing this a little bit more? Otherwise, we pack
What
it.
might be interesting for the other people is simply to get the latest version of the Telltale safety requirements.
Oh, yes. Well, they have been rather unchanged, but I will drop the link. Let me see. Where was that? Not here. Not here. Oh no, I just need to go to GitHub and the Automotive Work Group, and we have my fork. And so, yeah, we have not addressed or changed these requirements since the first iteration of the use case. So change will be coming to those requirements. But the map I showed you a second ago, or no, actually a few minutes ago, or maybe hours ago, is this one in this folder. So I'll just link directly to GitHub. But the repository is open, so you can just check it out and have a look at it. So yeah, in here, the telltale concept contains the requirements mind map I showed.
And it's on the master branch.
Hey, no, it is not, I think. Actually, it should be on both because it hasn't been touched, I think. Yeah, it's the same revision on master and version 2. Yeah. So master branch is fine. But yeah, it's always dangerous. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Yeah, then I guess, let me see what I wanted to show or what I wanted the participants to exercise. Of course, now we are getting into the safety add-on operation stuff, configuring it and playing a little bit with the semantic checks. Maybe we do that as a finisher. And yeah, I guess we will need another session for those interested.
Shua can show it to the medical group.
True. It might be interesting for the medical group at some point. I don't know. Sure. Do you know where the medical group is requirements-wise?
I'm not sure. I'm helping with the tracing part. But hey, that's a good thing. We can talk. Maybe you can come and do a demo there, if
Definitely.
medical.
Yeah.
And Kate would be, can figure out if that fits into the schedule, the meeting schedules, and so on.
I mean, at some point, this whole topic will be an issue in any and all domain work group.
So another thing we can consider is doing that in the TSC meeting in one of the days, one TSC meeting, dedicate that to show and give heads up to people that they should have the tool installed on their systems. And then, yeah, let's propose that for Johan for the next TSC meeting. We can just do that.
Yeah, it's a good idea. If there is time, then I'm happy to demonstrate or to have a hands-on session there as well. Yeah, okay. So yeah, it is a topic that will be addressed in any work group that handles an actual use case that needs to make a design. The question is how they want to address it. There are many ways to do it. It's just that for the automotive work group, the textual wave turned out not acceptable. Maybe that's different for another work group, and the overhead is not worth it. But I tried my best to make this as nice to use as I possibly could. And yeah.
It looks so complete. I'm wondering what other people will find.
Yeah, probably something. There's always something to be found. Now, let me remove the filter and show this real quick. So you already saw that, let's get rid of these notes here, that this tool will tell you if there is something fishy with the decomposition. Here it will start shouting, but and it will do so because the decomposition is not right, right? But let's assume we have the same requirement also here as a clone. Let's get rid of this stuff. So now at this point, let's turn this one into an, let's turn this one at this point into an ASIL C. And let's turn this requirement into an A of C. So if you do not look at this one, you will think, okay, something is wrong here. We have an A of C and a B. That can't work. And maybe at this point, maybe here, maybe at this point, we have an A of B. So looking at it from this point, you probably think, okay, something is wrong here. But if you know that this clone is here as well, you realize this is not an issue. Here is an incomplete decomposition, but here this is actually an A of B decomposition. But because it's also used here, it actually ends up an A of C decomposition. And the tool is smart enough to realize that. So if I do a safety check here, it will not complain up here, but it will complain down here. And if I instead kill it here and perform the sanity check, then it will complain here because all parents of this requirement have a lower base ASIL as this requirement. So somewhere up the tree, it expects to see an ASIL C or something derived of C. If it doesn't, it complains. So it's relatively smart in that regard. Just to show off this a little bit. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm impressed. So many have stuck around. Thank you for your patience, and I hope that some will use the chance to grab it, install it, play with it, and maybe make some use of it.
Well, it seems to be very impressive.
That's really cool.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Johan.
Japan.
I'm going to play with this, install it and play with it. Do you think that it would be a good one to use on the testing process and spreadsheets that we're putting together as well?
No, I don't think it is
No.
for that purpose. No.
Okay.
This really is for breaking down safety goals, safety concepts, and requirements. Of course, if there is the need, one can build mind map-based tooling for other purposes, but I don't think this will be a direct benefit in the for these.
But still, largest requirements are handled through spreadsheets or kind of tables so far. Yeah, but still, yeah.
I mean, yeah, requirements are managed as tables, but that is basically people are adapting how they work to the tools they have at their disposal. A safety concept is by its nature a tree.
Yes, that's absolutely the GSN and bears. Yeah.
Yes, GSN is actually a good talking point. I actually plan to teach this tool goal structured notation as well. I mean, it's pretty close to that already.
Yeah, makes sense.
And yeah, and it is pretty close already, and it needs to be.
Yeah.
It's
somehow or other I have the suspicion that that the tables would be exported to RQIF anyways.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, of course. And ultimately, yeah. I mean, you see these tables and you see the tree structured, albeit in a very poor form indoors and stuff like that. It's there, but it's a little bit hidden, and it makes working with these tools pretty painful in an unnecessary way, in my opinion. Working on a tree is a more natural thing for these, by its nature, trees. Yeah, tree-like argument chains that you have to construct for breaking down requirements and writing safety concepts in the same way.
I think that the filtering and the views are very important.
Yeah, it's when you start with Freeplane, it is the appearance you get is like, oh my god, so much stuff. How does all this work? It's like overwhelming. But if you get an introduction to it and you get used to it, you learn how powerful this actually is, this computerization of mind maps. I do so much more in mind maps now. I do all my notes taking and my to-do tracking and reporting and everything. It all happens in mind maps now. I just build a little bit of tooling around it, and I'm good to go. So yeah, it's a very powerful tool, useful for many things. Okay, then yeah, again, thank you for your patience, for your interest.
Thanks for the 2 hours.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
Thanks for
Thanks,
that.
Johan.
And yeah, thank you, Johan.
See you tomorrow, everyone.
Yep.
See
Bye.
you tomorrow.